a time in your life when you saw things happening on the news and you wondered what you could do about it? Well, guess what? Coming up next on Motivation, you're going to meet my guest, Marvin Smith. He's going to talk about the things that he's trying to do, and maybe that will actually encourage you to actually finally get off the couch and get involved in your community. I'm Ron Henderson, and welcome to Motivation. How are you, Marvin?
I'm good, Ron. Thanks.
Welcome to Motivation.
All right.
This is the second time you've been on the show.
Absolutely.
It's always a pleasure. I've been reading your Facebook, shout outs to people. You're inviting people to different events going on. Before we get into that, we both kind of grew up on the north side, right? When you look at what's going on in the community, because that's what we're going to talk about, you're doing a lot of good things right now to try to help with, violence and different things in the community. How has North Minneapolis changed compared to when we grew up?
Well, that's a good question, Ron. You remember, growing up in North Minneapolis, we grew up in a village. And I think you would agree with that. And what I mean by the village is the fact that, we were always surrounded by men. We were surrounded by positive men who were there to act as mentors, role models, men that were there to, kind of be there if you had some stuff to deal with. But mainly, they had a presence in our lives. There were women there, you know what I mean? And what people don't realize is that all of the adults could always act in the capacity of your parent.
Of a parent, yes.
And that is the key. And so when you ask that question, what's changed, I think by and large that is the biggest thing that's changed in our community. And as a result of that not being an intricate part of the everyday lives of kids in our community, what happens is we start to see an erosion of community, an erosion of civil behavior, an erosion of kids wanting the approval, needing the approval of adults, and as a result, trying to meet certain expectations. And so, in the absence of that, Ron, what we're seeing is just issue after issue that continues to plague our community, from antisocial behavior to, addiction. I even would go so far as to say that there's probably direct or indirect cause for some mental health kinds of issues. Because we know that, we're pack animals. We know that nurturing family, a connection to another human being is very important. And so what we're seeing today is that there's just not that connection.
Right. And can I interrupt you on that? Why do you think that you don't see that when you talk about the kind of, I call it the parental influence, okay? Or those mentor, I grew up, I remember, and I've mentioned this before in other shows, needing help, and I would go to Trinity Tabernacle and Pastor Lewis Walton, he'd take me down to Burger King, and I remember Wesley Hayden, and these guys were out there always trying to encourage you to do right, and they'd bring you in these facilities, See, so I remember growing up with, but is it because we've reached that, I don't even want to call it a microwave, I call it jet society now. Everything is boom, boom, boom. People are too busy? What is it?
No, I think that's part of it. But let's take a step back.
Yes,
let's look at our history here. Because we can't ignore the history of African American people in America. 2019 would be 400 years that we've been in this country, Ron. And suffice it to say is that we've been oppressed that entire time, all the way from slavery to Jim Crow, to mass incarcerations that we've seen over the last 30 years. The point I want to make is that, we can't ignore the fact that in the 80s there was this systematic and legalized extraction of black men from their families into the joint. With the duality of these crack cocaine laws, you know what I mean? And I won't go into that because everyone's pretty much familiar with it. But what they did was successfully remove black men from the homes, and as a result, it was a demise of the village. As a result, it was demise of two-parent households, and as a result, we're seeing generation kids that are catastrophically affected by the lack of having positive men in their lives and growing up in a two-parent home. So we can't ignore that. And when we want to be real critical of our community, you know, you still have to preface that with the fact that there were some things, legal things, that were legislated against us that only served to further oppress us and destroy us, you know. So we have to, you know, kind of keep that out there as well. And we need to remind black folks and white folks that, you know, some of this stuff was beyond our control. And we're, in many ways, the victim of bad policy.
So you turned out good. What do you think is the difference in your life?
Well, again, going back to the village, you know, you had mentioned Tabernacle Church, but you remember Douglas Chapel.
Oh, of course. Oh, yeah.
You remember Hospitality House. You remember Jerry Gamble's.
Oh, yeah, I worked there.
And for me, above all else, do you remember the Way? You know, where there were, you know, black men and women there that were there for us. You know, so these entities, these little institutions, were very important in the development of my entire peer group. I mean, we're both sitting here because those things were present in our lives when we needed them most. And there's an absence of that stuff now. And so
Phyllis Wheatley too.
Phyllis Wheatley, forgot about Phyllis Wheatley. My bad.
Cozy Breedlove, T. Williams, and my dad.
Cozy Ronnie Breedlove.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Yeah.
Interesting. So, with all this, with the parents that are, I mean, you got kids that there's shootings all the time. These people, they have parents, they have moms, and they have dads. Most of them. What role do the parents need to play?
Well, again, we have to be real careful with how we interpret the narrative as it relates to us.
Right.
We know, and psychologists and sociologists and people would tell you that kids, by and large, do better in two-family homes.
Of course.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And so when we ask that question, you know, they have a parent, they have a mom, they have this. Look, moms can only mom. You know, moms can't be dads. And I think for many years we've all been bamboozled into thinking that moms could actually be dads.
Well, I've seen some. Some had that big old switch.
But that's very different.
That's rarity. That's a
mom. You know, mom, mothering and fathering are gender specific things. You know what I mean? And so,
and the respect and all that. With the,
even though they may look alike, and you know, you engage in some similar behaviors. The fact of the matter is, a kid hanging out with his mom and a kid hanging out with his dad will experience those two things very differently. And so we got to be careful about the narrative. You know, the narrative as it's projected toward us, and that it's a negative narrative, and we have to really kind of expose the truth behind that. We are a spiritual people. We are a strong people. We are a resilient people. You know, all you have to do is look at the fact that despite 400 years of oppression, black folks are still being extremely successful in a society that don't value them. And that's what we got to tell our kids, is that there are options, you know what I mean, that there are pathways to success. Now, will someone give it to you? No. Are you entitled to it? No. But with hard work, discipline, the ability to put off immediate gratification, you know, this society still will allow you to be successful. So.
And you know, I'm thankful. I'm not a perfect person. I've never heard any of my kids curse in front of me. Okay, I have a kid that's decided he wants to be a rapper. You heard
Lucky you.
Hear how I said that? I have a son who wants to be a rapper, right?
Yeah.
And somebody told me I was rapping. And so he didn't talk to me for like a year because he knew that I had heard that. Okay? But I will say respectfully, none of my kids have ever used a curse word ever. I don't curse. They've never heard me. I don't curse. And I'm blessed that I have kids that are trying to do some things, but you have to stay on them. You have to stay on them. And as a parent, and you know, with the split family or whatever, I've done the best that I could. I always made sure that I had my days with my, you know, every other weekend and that day. Made sure that I invested in my kids and was a positive role model for them.
Absolutely.
So you can talk all you want, but kids are always going to look at your action. So I always say, do right. I said, if somebody gives you too much change at the store, you turn around and say,
Absolutely.
sir, you gave me too much change,
Absolutely.
okay?
Absolutely.
Because that's wrong, and
Values.
you always have to have those values and have
Values.
integrity,
Absolutely.
okay?
Absolutely.
So right now, what would you say would be the ongoing issues right now, especially on the north side, south side as well?
Well, thanks for asking that question. You know, not to appear overly critical of our community, but you know, there are some challenges that you know, we face, Ron, as a community. And I think that some of those challenges we need to meet. We need to, as a community, just say that, you know, this is the burden of our community, and there is going to be no laws, there's going to be nobody coming from downtown Minneapolis to intervene on our behalf and save us. If we are to rescue this community and to, in fact, create that village, that safe place for our kids, then it's going to be incumbent upon all of us to become involved. Having said that, we started a group, BLAAC, Black Men Leading the African American Community, about 3 months ago. And the reason I started that group, me and Marvin Clark over at New Salem Baptist Church and a couple of other men, we started that group because, you know, Ron, I've lived here all my life, and I have never seen this community be intentional in its efforts to get in front of the violence that we know is going to occur every year when the weather starts to get warm. We are already seeing it with homicide after homicide up in North Minneapolis. And so, taking a step back, I'm like, why is it that, you know, all this money, resources is poured in our community, and we have not done a very good job at stemming the tide of violence. We have not done a very good job at stopping teenage pregnancy. We have not did a very good job at getting our young men and women to graduate from high school. You know, and I can go on and on and on and on. And so we started this group as a reaction to all those things that I just mentioned. The biggest one being, how do we get in front of the violence? And you know, our feeling is that we have to do something. And so as a result, you know, the 19th, we are having a time this airs. This the event would have passed by because we're doing it this Friday. But in any event, you know, we're trying to create a space for kids to come in and tell us what do they need for the summer. You know what I mean? What can we do as adults to try to create a village to meet your needs? You know what I mean? I'm not interested in what adults have to say. I'm not interested in an initiative that an adult or a nonprofit wants to do to help kids. I'm interested in what the kids want from us. It's time that we give them a voice, a legitimate voice that not only will reflect their needs, but will also be met with the action from the adults in this community to address those needs. And that's the key, is to taking it that step further. We're not just going to be talking about it. We are going to be about it. We're going to create something that's going to be meaningful for these kids. You know, the two things that come to mind immediately is employment and how do we make them safe.
How do you do that?
How do we make them safe? So that's what we're planning this Friday. Now, the bigger picture is this. We have a strong, vibrant, spiritual community. We also have a great deal of members in our community, men, who are not involved in being men. And I mean that in the sense that there are certain obligations that all men play in every society. And that is to be, you know, protectors of men and women, to be providers for their kids and their wives, the women, to be constructive, to create commerce, to create safety, to create peace, to act as healers. And one of the things that we see in our community is that our men, a lot of our men, because I know a lot of men that are doing some amazing things, but a lot of our men are really comfortable with sitting on the sideline, not engaged, and I just call it apathy. You know, the apathy on the part of these men is what's killing us. It's not our kids, it's the apathy and their lack of involvement in the construction and the creating a village in our community. And so, our group challenges these men.
Okay. When do you typically meet?
We meet every Friday at New Salem Baptist Church from 6 to 8. We have dinner, we have prayer. And what we try and do is just to systematically look at what can this small gathering of men do to effectively change something in a positive way. Our mission statement is to engage our youth in a professional and personal manner. And what we're saying is that you need nurturing and love, we can give you that. If you need information on how to start a business, we can give you that. In addition to, we are committed to collaborating with those entities that already exist that are involved in the improvement of our community. And then the last part of our mission statement is to become involved in a bigger sense, in a more global sense, and partner up and collaborate with those entities that are challenging this administration that threatens to roll back our civil rights, that threatens to roll back our health care, that threatens to enact, stop and frisk, which we know means we're going to once again start seeing an increase in young black men being victims of homicide, in addition to incarceration. So this whole thing is starting all over again. And so as a community, we have to oppose that as well. You know what I mean? And we don't have the luxury to sit on the sideline and watch while the hard-fought gains of the civil rights movement is slowly removed and eroded and circumvented by this administration that's hell-bent on not just destroying, communities of color, but my God, they're women, everybody. They have, an agenda that threatens to destroy pretty much most of us, with the exception of white men, with money and power. So. And
how has this been received so far, what you're working on?
Ron, to be honest, I am a little disappointed that we don't have, more participation in our meetings. We have a consistent half dozen guys, but I would take a half dozen guys that are committed versus guys that just show up and want to talk and
do nothing.
Do nothing. Because when the rubber meets the road, I need the cats out there that are committed, out there making things happen. As an African American man, it is incumbent upon me to be someone that's going to be involved in improving the lives of these kids, and so that's never left me, and that gets back to the earlier stuff that we talked about, in that we were raised in a village. If those seeds are planted, they just never, as well as I do, they just don't leave. So
what's your next step?
The next step is to, of course, this Friday, have a meeting, get the kids in. We want to hear what their needs are.
Is there a contact number that somebody can contact you?
Contact me at 612-327-6362. 612-327-6362. Over the course of this year, there's a couple of other things that we want to do, Ron. Number one, we want to put African American men in every school that's populated with black boys and black girls, and where they're seeing a disproportionate number of disciplinary issues, suspensions, detentions, etc. We want black men in every school year 2017, 2018. So imagine that. Imagine, every Wednesday, we know that, or the kids know that they're going to have men like us in there talking to them, mentoring them, and just showing them some love. So we're trying to do that. The other things that we're trying to do is, when we look at North Minneapolis, we look at tons and tons of tax dollars going into the nonprofits. We look at tons and tons of resources being allocated in our community. Yet,
a lot of that money's being wasted, by the way.
Yet the black community is one of the poorest communities
Right.
in the nation.
Yeah.
However, if you look at the catalogs and stuff like that,
Sure.
Minnesota, best place to live,
Sure. Oh,
the
sure.
funnest city, the healthiest city. It's got,
yeah.
Minneapolis, in St. Paul, we get all these accolades for this incredibly awesome place to live.
Right.
But when you look at the black community, I'm saying like, whoa, what happened? What
Sure.
happened to us?
Right,
Why are
yeah.
we not included in that?
Yeah.
And so, what we're trying to do is to work on improving, our community, and the way that that's going to happen is that all those resources lack effectiveness because they operate in silos.
Mhm.
In other words, they are kind of these.
Almost like little, what do they call those? Like almost like when you talk about what do you call those? Like the Arabs have those little groups.
Yeah.
Little,
Yeah.
Yeah. Can't think of the name.
But they hardly ever
Right.
collaborate with each other.
Exactly.
And my feeling is that
It's almost like a competition.
it is a
See?
competition
Yeah.
because in so much as we appreciate this money that comes in,
Oh, yeah.
what happens is if we need $1 to make our community whole, they give us 80 cents.
Right.
So that there's just inherent
Oh, yeah.
conflict that happens between these various
Right.
entities to
Right.
get their money and kind
Oh,
of
yeah.
hold on to it.
Oh,
And
yeah.
by doing that, that means I can't interact or collaborate with you, which alleviates the ability to enrich and fortify everybody's effort.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And so, we got all this stuff going on, yet we still are plagued with issue after issue after issue. And so one of the things that BLAAC, the group that I'm leading, is going to be trying to do is
Yeah.
that we want to call the politicians, the educators, the legal system, police, mental health people, chemical dependency health people, physical health
Yep,
people,
yep.
faith-based community, concerned citizens,
Sure.
psychologists. We
Yep,
want to
sure.
invite employment specialists. We want to invite everybody under one roof and say, look, it's time that you guys start to work together.
Right.
And if we can pull that off, what we hope to come out of that with is a comprehensive network of social service agencies and concerned
Right.
persons that will be far more effective at intervening in the lives of kids when they go amok.
Right.
And so that's our goal, and if we can pull that off, when that kid says, you know what, I got anger management issues. Well, we got psychologists in our community,
right,
and
right.
here's their number.
Right.
When that person says, I need a job, well, we got job counselors
Right.
in
Right.
our community.
Sure.
That's where you go get a job. I got chemical dependency issues. We got treatment centers.
Right.
I went to one, and it's the best thing I ever did. They work. You know
Yep.
what I mean? I need parenting. We got all those entities. Let's bring them under one roof, and let's kind of have this clearinghouse where you walk in, identify 2 or 3 things you need to work on to get your life together. Bam, 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 bam.
And get some help. Yeah.
And get some help.
Yeah.
It's so simple. And so what happens is, what we're going to see, Ron, is we're going to see a increase in that which is good and a decrease in that which is bad.
Yep.
And it gets better and better every year. And so what happens is, the beginning of each year, you review what you did so that, we're able to deal with the kids, when they're out of school, and hopefully
Sure.
minimize the violence and the assaults. And then in fall, you look and see what worked, and you retweak it again, and you retweak it twice a year. You tweak this whole initiative twice a year, so that over 2 or 3 years, it's an effective, comprehensive network
Sure.
that is very good and adept at intervening in the lives of kids. And so what happens is, those kids who are marginal on the fence,
Yep.
that can go either way, we got something that will pull you over on this side so that you acclimate into
Yep.
successful society, and you're able to dodge the pitfalls of being in the gangs and that culture that's going to get you locked up et cetera, et
Right.
cetera.
And Marvin, I think part of what will help with that is if you get people who are really really want to help. Because what I've noticed over the years is there's people that get in these nonprofits. They're getting these big fat checks, and I'm not saying this to say look at me, but I can give you names of several people.
Yeah.
We used to go every week to the juvenile center
Yeah.
and talk with the guys. We didn't get paid for
Yeah,
it. We
yeah,
did it
yeah.
every Wednesday. Do you follow me? Every other week I'd go down on a Saturday juvenile.
Yeah.
I'd been to the Plymouth Center. All these places. Salam. We had a group called Salam. Sincere African American law men. With Tedros Saluki and a bunch of different people.
Yeah.
And we cared. We never got paid.
Yeah.
It wasn't about getting paid. And right now, what I've seen, even in our community, is there's a lot of people out there that are heads of all these different positions that aren't really doing a whole lot, in my opinion, okay? That's not everybody. I'm just saying there's a lot of that, and that's in all the organizations,
Right.
actually. If you look at the money they bring in.
Oh, absolutely. I agree.
We need to be spending money to actually help. I like your attitude about it as far as the programs.
Yeah.
What do they really need? And so you can get all the help that you want from me. If you want to come over here and do a public service announcement, I'll put it on every show that I
Right.
have out there, okay? Anything that I can do to help you,
I
I will,
appreciate that.
okay?
I appreciate
You know,
that.
and then if you can maybe have your meetings at a time that some of us can make it.
You know,
I feel bad. Folks at home, you know me, I'm honest. I feel bad I can't make it this meeting because they're like at 7 o'clock at night and I leave for work every morning
Yeah.
at 5. And I told you before the show.
And you know, the thing is, Ron, is that you're already doing something. You know what I mean? And you know, our group is cool with the people that are doing stuff.
Right.
We started the group partially to get that individual that says, I don't know what to do.
Right.
You know,
Oh, yeah.
I don't know how to become
Sure.
involved.
Oh, yeah.
Well, this is how you become involved because, you know, we got a big agenda and we're going to
Right.
pull it off.
Right.
With 6 men, with 2 men,
Yep.
with 5 men, with 100 men. We're going to pull it off
Amen.
because, you know, I think there's enough divine intervention that sees this as a good thing. You know,
Right,
we're going to
right.
definitely pull it off.
Right.
My feeling is if we can continue to do it, if we build it, they'll come, basically.
Yep.
You know,
We got
because-
about 1 minute, so
Yeah.
what would you like to say in closing? We got about 60 seconds.
I would like to say to the African American men in this community and the women to come and join us every Friday at the New Salem Baptist Church, 2507 Bryan Avenue North. We meet from 6 to 8 p.m. We will feed you so you can come right after work. We'll feed you. I ask you to come commit to us for 4 consecutive Fridays. If it's not something that you can get behind, we can accept that. You know what I mean? We're going to love you anyways. And if you need to more information, you can call me at area code 612-327-6362. So I look forward to seeing you, and I appreciate having this opportunity.
Hey, thank you for coming on.
Yes,
Folks,
thank
like I
you.
said, I've known Marvin for a long time. He's been through a lot. He's done a lot for himself, and I'm proud of him. He is a role model, and I appreciate you coming on the show today.
Thank you.
And if you just tuned in, you've been watching Motivation, Ron Henderson, the Fitness King, with my guest, Marvin Smith, talking about BLAAC, right?
Yep, BLAAC.
BLAAC, and the importance of getting out there helping in the community. Until next time, and all that you do, stay fit, stay positive, and stay motivated. We'll see you next time on Motivation.
Thank you.
Good job.